Number 2, Craig Foss.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance and reads, what reports has he received on the government's financial...
Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
To table the official document from which he was quoting in the previous supplementary.
Can I check order? The point of order is taken. Can I check with the Right Honourable Prime Minister? Was he quoting from an official document or material prepared for his answer?
Mr. Speaker, I was. I'm more than happy to table it, but it has been tabled before.
But if are members satisfied that it has already been tabled? The member should table the document. No order. The Prime Minister indicated that the document had been tabled before, but a request has been made that if it was the Prime Minister was quoting from an official document that he table it, and I'm asking that be done. Question number 2, Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and reads, what reports has he received on the government's financial position?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the government's financial statements for the 9 months to 31st of March were issued. Shows an operating deficit for the 9 months of the financial year of $10.2 billion, compared with a forecast deficit of $8.9 billion. The Earthquake Commission's $1.5 billion estimated share of the costs of the Christchurch earthquake account for most of this difference. However, the figures do not include any of the further costs of the Canterbury earthquake, including the government support packages or the government's support package for AMI policyholders.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, by how much has the government's financial position deteriorated since late 2008?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, not by as much as it might have, but it has deteriorated significantly, requiring the government to carefully review all its spending priorities. For instance, the pre-election update in October 2008 forecast that the deficit for this year would be $2.4 billion. It's much more likely to be around 15 or 16 billion. This is all the more reason for New Zealanders to be very sceptical about political promises to spend more, borrow more and run up even larger deficits.
Supplementary.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, how will the budget next week respond to and improve the government's financial position?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the budget is likely to confirm a very large deficit for the current financial year, including recognition of a fair chunk of the costs of rebuilding Christchurch. But it will also set out a balanced and considered review of the government's spending priorities across a range of programs and lay out a credible track back to surplus.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Can the Minister confirm that the New Zealand Superannuation Fund has made a return of 32% since he cancelled the government's contribution to it, and that if those contributions had continued, based on that rate of return, Crown debt would have been reduced by approximately $375 million less than it is today?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member needs to remember the context here. The New Zealand Super Fund lost billions of dollars because of the change in global markets. It's clawed back a fair bit of that, and you would expect that a fund of this size will, over time, return to its normal return. In the end, the government took the view that borrowing is not saving. And based on what the members' statements, I expect that a Labor government will go out, borrow $50 billion, buy the New Zealand Stock Exchange and call that investment.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, why is it important for the government to get its finances in order and return to budget surplus?
The Honourable Bill English.
What a good question. Mr. Speaker, it was appropriate that the government run deficits through the recession as we continued with our long-term investment in infrastructure, maintained public services, maintained cash support to New Zealand families and protect New Zealanders from the worst effects of the downturn. But now that the economy is showing further signs of growth, it is time that we restrict our borrowing, that we make more decisions about the priorities for our spending and get our way back to surplus. That is how the government can contribute to national savings, as households are already doing.
Question number 3, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the